Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's continue our discussion on box plots. So in the last example we looked at a box plot with days on the x-axis and total bill on the y-axis. Here you see the days go by order from Thursday to Friday, Saturday and then Sunday. We can also use another attribute known as order and then pass the days in such an order that we want. For instance, if I want Saturday to be first, we can do that. Let's see how we can use the order attribute. So we have SNS and then we'll call the box plot method. For our x-axis we'll pass day. For our y-axis we'll pass total bill, and our data comes from the tips dataset. And for our order attribute, we'll pass a list in an order that we want the days to be present. For instance, if we want Sunday to be first, we can do that. Sunday followed by, let's say, Friday, and then Thursday followed by Saturday. We can do that. So if we run it, now we see that Sunday is first and then Friday. So whatever order we specify here, we will see that on our box plot. That's the order attribute. And to change the color, we can pass the palette attribute and set it to, let's say, HUSL. Let's see another example of the order attribute. Let's start by calling the box plot method. And then for our x-axis, let's pass 6. And then for our y-axis, let's pass tip. And data comes from our tips dataset. So let's first see the box plot for this. So here you see male comes first and then female. For that we can pass the order attribute and then pass the order that we want. So female and then male. So the order will be reversed. Let's run it. So now we have female and then male. Okay, that's the order attribute. Next, we'll consider the iris dataset and see some box plots. Let's start by loading the iris dataset. So SNS.load dataset, and we'll be using the iris dataset. And let's save this in a variable called iris. Now if we call our iris dataset, we have sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width, and of course our species. So let's plot a box plot of our iris dataset. So SNS.box plot, and let's pass our iris dataset and see what we get. So if we simply pass our iris dataset, this is the box plot. We have sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width on our x-axis, and we have the actual length on our y-axis. And let's pass the palette attribute and use some other colors. Let's say cool warm. That's what it looks like. And let's take this and pass some other attributes. One other attribute that we have is called Orient, and by passing that attribute we can control how the box plots are oriented, whether horizontally or vertically. So let's pass that. So orient, we can set it to be horizontal or vertical. horizontal, for instance, and run it. You see now the box plots are oriented horizontally. Here we have sepal lengths, sepal widths, petal length and petal widths on the y-axis, and the actual size or length on the x-axis. And we can change this to some other color. Let's say HUSL. Run it again. Okay, that's the horizontal orientation. So we pass the orient attribute, and we could have passed horizontal or just H. That will also give you the same result. So since we have a horizontal orientation, we also have a vertical orientation. Let me show you that. So for vertical orientation, we simply pass vertical or V, and let's run that and see what we get. So here is the vertical orientation. So by passing this orient attribute, we can control the way our box plots are presented, whether vertically or horizontally. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is how we can show each of our data points on our box plots. For instance, here we have a single box plot. There's a way to show each data point combined with the box plots. For that, we'll be using a method known as the swarm plot. Let's see how we can do that. So we have our box plot method that we have seen, and let's see a box plot of day versus total bill. So we'll have day on our x-axis and total bill on our y-axis. Total bill, and our data comes from the tips dataset. For our palette attribute, let's pass HUSL. So on top of this box plot method, we'll call Seaborn swarm plot method. So swarm plot, and then we pass the attributes that we have for our box plots. So for our x-axis, we'll pass day. For our y-axis, we'll pass total bill, and our data comes from the tips dataset. Okay. So make sure you have both of these methods in the same cell, otherwise you'll get separate graphs, separate plots. But we want both of the data points and the box plots to show in the same plot. So let's run this and see. So here we have our box plots, and then we have data points for each of our entry. Okay, so a single point represents a single data point. Okay, and we have that for each of our days variables. And there is another attribute known as color. By passing that attribute, we can change the color of this swarm plots. Let's see that. So I'll copy this, paste it here, and then we'll pass the color attribute. For this attribute, we can pass a number or simply state a color. For instance, let's say black. So here we have black as our data points for each of the data. Okay, or we can use a number. We can pass a number value for our color attribute. Let's pass a value of 0.35 and see what we get. Okay, we have a grayish kind of color. Okay, you can you can try out different numbers. Let's say 0.12. Okay. So the lower the number, the darker the color. Let's try 0.6 maybe. And you have a lighter color. So you can change those different attributes to get the color that you want. Okay, I'll just pass 0.15. So this gives us a nice comparison of each data point on top of our box plots. Great. Just to summarize, we looked at box plots in this lecture. We saw that we can draw a single box plot for a single variable, or we can do the same for two variables. We can pass a hue attribute for our box plots to get more information on a specific hue. We also saw that we could pass the order attribute to change the order of the variable we want to be presented. And finally, we looked at how we can control the way our box plots are presented by passing the Orient attribute, whether horizontal or vertical. And we saw how we could draw data points on top of our box plots for our variable. Great. Thank you everyone, and see you at the next lecture.